and divided by 93%, you need to borrow $53,763 to net the whole 50. So when you take $53,000, 763, and you divide times 7%, that's $3,763 in interest. When you subtract that from the 53,763, that gives you the net you need. Borrowing the interest on the interest becomes a capitalization problem. Okay? Study that, and calculation rate of return, that's page 23. We did this on an 83-day loan, okay? That was a 30.36% return on an annual basis to made as a lender. Let's go through the second one. The loan is 6 months prepaid. The girl pays it off in 47 days. You made $3,500 in interest in 47 days. That's an actual $74.47 a day that you made in reality. The yearly return is $74.47 times 360 days in a year is $26,809. You got a 53% return on your money. So you want that rehabber to get in and get that property done as quickly as possible, because the velocity of money coming back, if I lent him $50,000 for that time frame, and he pays me off in 40-some days, my annual rate of return is almost 54% of my money. If anybody can do better than that, come up and take the chalk. Yes?
I have a question about when you're doing that, 360 days.
It's called the 360 actual. That's what the banks use. If you look at, go to Baltimore Rehab, I wrote a newsletter or a president's message on that about how my nuns in St. Elizabeth were probably spinning in their grave when you find out that it's 360 days in a year. I thought it was 365 and a quarter days, but bankers don't think so. So 360 is called a 360 actual. I'm going to try to find an amortization schedule with that on it. Only the banks have that one.
How often do you lend the money at 3 months versus 6 months?
There's one person in particular that was doing a lot of fixing, and he had a lot of banks lined up, and he was getting financing. He was in and out in 3 months. He might go over a day or two, and he would pay the 24% for a couple of days. But 99% of my loans that I do are 6 months, and I got a couple real big rehabs going on. They're down to the walls where they'll take a year. And the year's 12%. 15, 14, 13, and 12. 12 months. So, that's page 24. Here's something you have to be careful of when you're dealing with homeowners. You know, the short sales. Does anybody know what a deficiency judgment is? Okay. Basically, if somebody does a short sale on a property, and you're an investor, and you paid $100,000 for that house, and you shorted to $60,000, $40,000 was given to you on a promissory note. Cash happened at that settlement. Somebody gave you, Kathy, $100,000 to pay Ames, right? Now you can't pay the bank, and you're 40 grand light, okay? So the Internal Revenue looks at that as a gift. And the bank will send you over either a deficiency judgment. In Maryland, they won't. You'll get a 1099-C, which is a forgiveness of debt by the bank. And then you have to take that $40,000 and put it on your income tax return. That's what happens to investors. Okay, it can be deadly for them. Now, if you're a homeowner and you have a deficiency judgment, where you're selling the property for less than you owe on the property, President Bush enacted what was called the Mortgage Forgiveness Act. And that stated that you filed a certain form with the government, and your shortage that you had in the loan goes away. So the $40,000 went away. Unfortunately, your Congress did not redo it on January 1st. So when you're buying a house from a homeowner, and they're in trouble, they have a family, most real estate people don't even know how to explain this, that the consequences of them shorting that sale could be terrible to that family. So if they have a $40,000 loss on 1099-C coming to them, they have to report that on their income because Congress has not enacted that law. So be careful with that when you're doing something with a homeowner. And if you can get a deficiency judgment on a property, that's even better because that's not attached to a property, it's just a personal debt. When you're doing a rehab, the hard money guy would probably hold out the last of his money until he sees a use and occupancy on the property, and he wants to see a waiver of the mechanics lien. Because you had a general contractor that did all this, and you've been paying him the money on this property, and you find out at the end, when you go to sell the property, there's a mechanics lien from the plumber for $8,000 because your general didn't pay him. So you need to have a waiver of the mechanics lien, number 25, signed, before he gets his last draw.
That would be by every trade. That would be by every trade of the
The general contractor, because he's the guy who's going to be responsible for it. Now, remember I was telling you about the notes that we use? I think we got enough time to cover this, Joel. Did we give out? How's this sound? Rashid and I are bidding on a house. First thing I asked a lady in the house when she calls me, I say, why are you selling a nice house like this? And I keep quiet. And she tells me all about the arthritis. She tells me about she can't go up the steps anymore. She tells me about she wants to go live with her daughter out in Utah, and I keep quiet. And I'm writing all this down as to very seldom is it about money. It's always some other reason. So now, Rashid comes in and he says, yeah, I'll buy this property, 65% less repairs, and that little formula everybody uses and everything. And then she said, well, I got to call this guy fell up here. I go down, and the property's $100 grand. I say, I'll give you $87,000 for it. And the word around town fell nuts. It was crazy. Because he bought that house for $87,000. He'd never make any money on it. What they don't understand is I got financing on the property. I've been $10,000, $15,000 cash to the lady because I listened to what she had to say. She might only have a $20,000 mortgage on it I can pay off. And then I financed it on a purchase money note that we're going to go over here at 0 interest. So I sell the property. Oh, by the way, no mortgage. Promissory note. It's just a purchase money note, unsecured. We'll study all four of these, or movement of the collateral. So now I sell the property for $100 grand. And I'll walk away with $1,000 on this thing. Or I might have $500 I gotta lay out of my pocket. People say, you're crazy, fellow, you bought this property, didn't make anything. But I sold the property, and now all the cash from that sale comes to me. But I don't have to pay this lady because I structured the note for 5 years. So now I got all this cash from the sale of that property at 0 interest and no payment. You understand what we just did? Okay, let's
Think
go
about
on.
that, guys. Think about that. Because when Bill first was talking to me about that deal, just think about it. You're using the money from selling that person's house to finance the rest of your deals or whatever you're going to do because you structured the note to be paid off in 5 years with a substitution of collateral if needed where it could be moved somewhere else. So you gave the woman the money that she asked for, $10,000, $15,000, on a house that's worth $100, You sold it. You're playing with 45, 50,000, zero interest for 5 years that you can use. That's powerful.
Here's the addendum that goes with this. Page 26. I did this on a Sunday afternoon watching a football game. Addendum to contract of sale. Offer price, whatever you want to offer. Earnest deposit within 24 hours, additional cash and settlement. Let's use it, plug in a number, $100,000 house is the offer price on it. Earnest deposit, $1,000, additional cash and settlement on this property, $99,000. You know, I mean, it's going to be additional cash and settlement, $19,000. Okay, so she gets 20 grand. But $90,000 for 8 years at $10,000 yearly payments and a zero balloon payment on this. So the total paid is what she wanted. Example. I tell this story all the time. Coming out of Homewood Federal Bank, going down East Avenue, Bolden Street. Sign on the wall, this is years ago, sign on the door, house for sale. I called the guy up, says I want $55,000 for this house. And I said, okay, I wrote a contract. $5,000 down, $50,000 financing. I gave it to him. He calls me up, he says, "Oh, you're crazy." He says, "I want cash." I said, "Well, you didn't say that. You said you wanted 55 grand. Okay? So he said, "No, I don't want it." Next month, I send you the same contract. He calls me up, he says, "I told you I didn't want that deal." I said, "Well, I don't know, I thought maybe you came to your senses." Next month, I sent it to him again, no response. So a month and a half passes, and I sent it to him again, but this time, $45,000 with $5,000. He called me up and said, he's raising hell. He says, "I thought we had a deal with 55. We made that deal work. Owner financing. There's a lot more to that story, but we don't have time. So I said to the guy, "Okay, we'll do this deal." I said, "But it's subject to an inspection." In those days, there was only one home inspector. His name was John Hine. Remember him, Nick? I called John Hine. He went down. He come in, and we had the low water pressure basement and upstairs. And that was usually just all you had to do was replace the horizontal galvanized pipes, and there was a crack in the chimney. Minor stuff. So I called the guy up and I left a message. "Too much deferred maintenance. I don't want the house." So he comes down my office raising cane. He said, "What do you mean too much deferred maintenance? That's a beautiful house. Give me that home inspection." I said, "I don't have it with me." He said, "Let's call the home inspector." He calls John Hine. John Hine tells him what's wrong. He goes like this. He looks up and he says, "Well, I know what it is. You don't have the money." And there's nothing worse than somebody calling you a liar when you are. Yeah, we made that deal work. I brought in somebody that put the cash up for the deal. We split the equity in the thing when we sold the property. We sold that property for like $150,000 7, 8 years later. So that was, I brought in an equity partner. But on this one here, if you can see the balloon payment, the total paid on this thing is going to be almost 90% of what the property's worth. This offer is secured by the signature of Kathy London, the managing member of Shake 'em Down and Bolt LLC, right? A member of, on a purchase money note, not a promissory note, a purchase money note to the seller or seller's designee. The first payment to be 1 year from date of settlement, and thereafter on each consecutive anniversary date of settlement, see attached purchase note to seller. And that's where you've got to use one of your 4 notes that we're going to go over. Property is being purchased as is, and buyers are aware of the condition of property and the scope of repairs needed to create a rental property under Baltimore County Building Code. The initial $1,000 deposit is held by blah, 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 etc. So that is your owner financing clause right there. Does it say anything about interest? No. It doesn't say anything about. Does it say anything about a mortgage? No. So with that, you attach purchase money note number 1, page 27. This is the first note you have. How many times have you gone into a property and you offer them financing, and you make some ridiculous offer, and the realtor comes back to you and says, Kathy, the woman will sell you the house, but she wants 10% interest on the note, and she wants a 15-year note. So you plug that into your calculator, or you're $100,000, let's say, or $80,000, and when you plug in your calculator, you ever see the APR on a loan? You might be paying $46,000 in interest, right? You ever do that in a calculator? So you look at that and you say to the people, you think I'm paying you almost full price for the house, and you want $46,000 in interest. I'm not going to pay it. And most of the homeowners will be like Jackie Gleason, homina, homina, homina. They don't know that 8%, 9% equates to $50,000 in interest. They see one little 8, 9%. And invariably, when you can get to that point with people, they'll say, well, how much interest is good? And you say, how much would you say? Would you want? And they say, well, how about $4,000 or $5,000? They say, okay, I can only pay you $10,000 a year for 8 years, or $8,000 for have to add another year. I'll pay you the interest at the end. Now, if you plug that in your financial calculator, where you've taken that little bit of interest and added to the end of the I would say year 9, it comes up as error. Okay. And they're happy because that's your simple interest added to the end. The payment for the balance, this is type 1. A payment for the balance due on the note at the address, the undersigned purchaser will pay the seller the sum of $80,000 principal balance. Doesn't say anything about interest. Printed out from the date of this note payable in consecutive yearly installments. That can be quarterly, semi-annually. I like to put yearly down. Installments of $8,000 or more if buyer elects to pay more, commencing on such and such date to the end of it, at which time a balloon payment, if any, is due. The payment shall be paid at their address or the place designated. Failure of buyer to pay any of the above payments within 15 days, the option is due and payable. Now here's the kicker. If this note by any means, now what does by any means mean? That means you assign a beneficial interest in an LLC. Any way this thing transferred by way of an option, I don't care. The word by any means encompasses anything. Normally an assignment, if you sign a contract and say an assignment, they'll assign the LLC, and it really hasn't changed. But this word by any means, even if it's a land trust, you got it. If this note by any means transfers to any third party, it shall first be offered to the note payer at the same price and same condition as offered to the third party. Now, why would we put that in there? Go ahead. Well, maybe you weren't even thinking of that. How about if dear old mom's got this $80,000 note, right? And you're paying her 10 years, 8 years of $10,000, right? That's a note you have. Kathy's her daughter. And she says, I'm getting old, Kathy. I'll sell you this note for $50,000. You have the third party right to come in and buy that. She can't sell the note out from under you. Okay? Right of first refusal, it's called. Okay, that's your first note. That's 0 interest. The second note, they say, nah, I'm not doing that, Phil. Page 29. This is the second note you go to. Yeah.
How often do you find people with more mortgage on property?
Well, I don't need them without a mortgage. It's a $100,000 house. It's a $100,000 house. And it's in fairly decent shape. And they owe 40 on it. How hard is it to get a hard money loan at 40 on 100,000, 40% loan to value? Where you pull out here, fortunately, some people have enough money to put that money down. Very rarely do you find people that owe nothing on it, but they're out there. You know, we find, I look for them all the time. You know, but if somebody owes 20, 30,000 and they want 85,000 for the house, do you think it'd be hard to find money for that kind of loan? I lend it to you every day because I'm safe. I got an $85,000 house, $90,000 house, with a $20,000 mortgage on the thing. I got no risk as a hard money lender. So it's really a good way to do business. The second note here is they turn you down flat for that, okay? No. A payment for the balance of the note due on property at the outside will pay the seller sum of X amount of time, which includes principal and the added interest. Remember when we said, I'll pay you 8% interest? You're going to add it to the end. An added interest of, let's say, $3,000 for a total balance of, this balance shall be payable in consecutive installments or more. Now that's where you've added simple interest to the note. $80,000, I'll give you 5% interest on that, simple interest, $4,000. That's a lot better than a full amortization loan. And you add it to the end, divided by the number of payments. But the key is that there's no mortgage on the house. Now, when you buy that house and go to settlement, you have a purchase money note with somebody that's not connected to that house. So now you go sell the house for what you paid for it. You paid a hard money guy off 20 grand or 30 grand you had to put down on the house to pay her note off. And you're sitting with 65,000 cash. Zero interest, and you only have to pay these people back over 6 years. Do that 5 or 6 times, and you'll become a dangerous person. You'll never need any money. Does it ever happen? Of course it happens. I just did it in Memphis, Tennessee. And I only do it because it's fun. It's just, I just like to see if I can get around, the agents and all that. And they don't even sit, they don't even know what's happening. And the key to this thing is, I now have an 8-year note, or let's call it a 5-year note of $8,000 a year I owe Kathy, okay? 2 years from now, I send a note to Kathy. Kathy, I ran into a little bit of money. Do you think maybe you could take a little discount on this note? Well, the old adage in loan and money is, more is better than less. Now is better than later. More now is the best. Okay? So she might say yes. Does it work? Quick example. I've told this story 100 times. It's true. I get a call about, 8, 10 years ago. Charles knows Chuck down in Florida says, got an old lady here, down here, Phil, that is a really nice woman. She's not making it. She's got a bunch of money in the bank. Bank of America, I think, I can't remember what loan company it was, what finance company it was, but somebody was handling her account. And she wasn't making any interest on her stocks and bonds. So me and my wife flew down and went and visited her. Sweetest old lady you ever met. She had parrots in her house, big parrots sitting on your shoulder. So it turns out what we did was, I looked at her finance situation. She was making they were churning her every couple months, just utilizing all her money. So I took $78,000 of her money. We moved it over to a private, wasn't even it wasn't a retirement account, it was just cash. She moved it to cash and pulled it out and gave it to us to put on the street. 78 grand, remember. We were paying her $666 a month continuous. My girl sent her a check religiously. Interest only, it was like a 6-year note, 5-year, just a promise. It was a promissory note because why? Money changed hands. Promissory note. And I had this money on the street. I was making the arbitrage between it. I was making deals with it, 78 grand. And she was getting her $666 a month. Everybody was happy. I get a call January 2nd. Bill, did you hear about, what's her name? I said, no, how would I hear about her? Said she was coming home from midnight mass last night, and a girl drinking hit her and killed her head on. Now remember what the focus of what I'm talking about here is the note, 78 grand note. That's, sorry Lord, but that's the first thing that came to my mind, the note. And so I said, well, I'm sorry to hear it. So we continued to send the 666 to her because we were not instructed not to do that yet, not to stop that. So about 2 months later, we get a call from a paralegal. And the paralegal said, Mr. Fell, you understand that Gail was killed. I said, I heard that. She said, well, we'd like you to start, we're the attorney firm that's handling the estate. We'd like you to start sending the checks down to the estate of. I said, well, send me the death certificate because I don't know who you are, and I want to make sure that she did. I mean, it's a gross way of putting it. So I got the right documentation, and then I started sending the checks down to the estate of Gail such and such. 2 months passed, right? Sending these checks down. I get a call from the paralegal. She says, Richard Fell, she says, we are closing this estate up, and you're the last guy in the estate. What that meant is they were done milking it, right? So now, the only thing holding this estate up at this point was my note. I said, well, look, I says that money's out on the street working. I says, and I got 3 or 4 more years left on this note. I says, I'm okay paying that. She says, now we want to close this account out. And she says, we might have to do a discount on this note. I said, well, how's that work? I says, I'll get back to you. So she came back to me, and I said, there's discounting on the paper. She came back to me about 2 weeks later and said, the girls want to close it out. Would you take $35,000? Would you give us $35,000 for it? So I said, well, I'll get back to you. And I hung up. So $35,000 we paid her, but on a promissory note, what was the problem there? Money changed hands, didn't it? So if I'd have paid them $35,000 and they'd have paid me, I'd have got a 1099-C, a forgiveness of debt. Right? So I made them restructure the note to $35,000. I paid that off, and the yield went up. Everybody was happy. Discounting the paper. Okay. So was there a moral to that? Yeah. Lend to people 85 years old. Type 2 note. You added the interest to the end. Type 3 note. Type 3 note. The people say, absolutely not. I want interest on the note. And the note is payable on an amortization schedule. Okay, note 3. Loan with interest and an amortization. Now what you have to do is, you can do that, but the key is that you have to get that paper, that debt off that, away from that property, that you can play with that property, that you can go do what you want with that property. So I say, well, okay, I'll give you a note, a mortgage on something that's not attached to the property. It's an IOU note, and the seller wants regular amortization. Still no mortgage. There's just an amortized loan, principal and interest on an unsecured note. Okay? So that's one way of doing it. So now they're getting P&I on a note, but it's still not attached to the house, and you can still do what you want. Next one is, somebody says, absolutely not, I want collateral, Mr. Bell. I'm going to lend you the money, you can borrow the money. I want interest on the note. This is the regular amortization schedule. This is note number 4, page 33. But I want collateral. And you say, well, what kind of collateral you want? I want the note on my house. So you give them, the seller says no to the previous 3 notes. They want a normal amortization schedule. This is what will happen when you run into a real estate agent for recourse. And you can't come and take my wife, my doghouse, my cats, my canaries, because the bankers will take all that from you. Okay? Now, the key to that thing is you say, okay, I'll give you, it's such a good deal. It's such a good deal here that I'll give you what you want, and I'll give you the collateral on the house that I'm buying, but you have to give me the right to move the collateral. So that's the next page there, substitution of collateral. Now what does that mean? If Sean sells me the house, if we do a normal settlement on this thing, he's getting $60,000 on the property, and it's for 10 years, and I'm making a normal payment, and I find a buyer for that property. Normally, on the clause 17 of the Fannie Mae contract, that's used when you do a loan, it says that when there's what's known as a due on sale clause, unless you're a trust. So that means that when the house is sold, he's got to be paid, right? Due on sale clause, the mortgage has got to be paid off. Whereas if you have a substitution of collateral on it, you can say, I want to move your loan to another property. Substitute the collateral on the property for the term of the loan. So you got a 10-year loan, you sell the property in 6 months, you have the right to move the loan to another property. You with me? Now, why would people do that? I have taken so many of these loans where people say, Bill, I've got to have collateral, I'm just going to feel safe. I say, well, how would you like to have a loan on my personal residence? Well, yeah, of course. What do I care? I'm going to pay them. I'm going to pay them all, pay them. So they moved the loan from the house that we're doing to my property, or to a house on Curly Street that's already got 6 of these on it. They don't know it's a 7th loan. They just want to hear the word collateral. So you want to make your buyers, your sellers feel safe with this. And this is a way of doing it, the substitution of collateral. Or you can say, I don't want to give you a house, I want to go out to Charles Blair's house and get one of the bars of gold out of his safe. Okay?
So, when
Yeah.
you do the substitution of collateral document, you do that when you initiate the loan, or
No,
you're trying
when
to
you're on the
transfer?
4th loan. You start with loan 1,
Okay.
which is the best deal for you, with less headaches. And if that doesn't work, you go 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. There's a guy by the name of Pete Fortunato, who's Charles and my mentors as far as people ever. And when you're writing a deal, when I write a deal on a property, I always write 2 deals. I write a cash deal, and I write a financing deal on the thing. And when I present it to the people, I say to the people, which one would you like? I don't want to give them a chance to walk away from all of them. I ask which one you want. Plus the fact, I never go after foreclosure properties or bank REOs or short sales. It's a waste of my time. And you got out there all these homeowners sitting with their properties that nobody's coming to buy, because everybody's going after the deal and the short sale. And they wait 6 months to get the deal. Meanwhile, the poor homeowner's sitting there, nobody's making offers on their houses. And I come along and I make them an offer and give them almost full price for the house. So I like it when you all go after short sales, you know? So it's just kind of a waste of time. And I'm hearing right now that there's a lot of rehabbers having trouble getting properties, you know?
And Bill, just to answer your question, he talked about note number 3 as being a fallback if they don't take the first one. Because the first one is the best collateral for you, or the best situation for you. Then you offer them the security of the substitution of collateral.
So you don't want to use a substitution of collateral unless they ask for collateral.
Right.
The collateral you're using in the first and second note is your signature and your good name.
But when you use it, you put that in together at settlement, correct? When
Yes,
you
that
use
has to be a
it,
part of the
that was
document.
sort of the
It
question.
has to be part of the document.
Both of the documents
All
go
that's
in
part of the document,
at
yes.
at your settlement,
Correct.
and then you have that in the records.
Correct.
Yes. When you use it.
So when you buy the house, it's pretty clear. I'm sorry, Patrick.
So what else do you know within the promissory note? You don't need a lot of.
No promissory note.
So it's not
It's a
from-
purchase money note.
Okay.
Nothing's recorded.
But that's it. See, they
Correct.
sign the deed, there's a promissory, there's a
Purchase
promissory.
money.
note.
You and them, you sign the deed, you own the house free and clear. Okay, but you got this side note, let's call it a side note, a purchase money note, and I owe you what you have. You shouldn't need an attorney to review this paperwork. You should study this and know this better than the attorney. When have you ever had an attorney tell you, gee, that's great, you did a good job? They never will do that. Attorneys are paid to find something wrong.
I was meeting with the people who are.
The sellers.
Today, you run into them what's it called?
We've run into where the attorney looks at it, or the son-in-law looks at it and says, gee, Mom, you're not getting any interest, on this thing. And they'll come back, I said, well, what kind of interest you want? I said, I thought I was doing it because there's a couple of ways you pay interest. Simple, compound, and inclusive. So if I'm paying you $300 a month for a property, and it's $300 I'm handing you in a check, and you say, I want 8% interest, I said, thank you, because I was paying you 9, and it's included in the 300. It's called inclusive interest. Learn that financing in this business, guys. You'll be...
Amy, just to touch on what Bill was saying, not often do they ask for the attorney to get involved in it, but sometimes they will. You just have to know how to answer the actual resistance when you get the attorney. There's an actual call. But sometimes they will, but not often will they happen.
I had a situation in Memphis, Tennessee, and it's down there, similar to Florida, you have a buyer's title company and a seller's title company. Down there, the seller of the property pays for the title insurance on the property, and they create the documents for you as the buyer. So I did a deal like this, and the woman was holding all the paper on it. I get a call, oh gosh, the day of settlement. I said, what is this, Mr. Bell? I said, what's what? She says, we can't do this, there's no interest. I said, who are you? She says, I'm the title company. I said, let me tell you something. Your job is to complete the paperwork that's in front of you, not to play Miss Lawyer. And we settled on the property, but she was trying to nix my deal because this stuff, you don't see this stuff anywhere. This is 30, 40 years of just accumulating this kind of stuff over the, does it work? You bet it works. You bet it works. The other thing here, move on, is I gave you some option papers on this. One is, if you look at them and you got any questions, you give me a call. It's a good way of making a lot of zero interest money too.
And we're going to be going, I'm going to have Bill speak again. In fact, he's going to be, we talked about the cruise, and he's going to be one of the people on the cruise speaking. The mastermind members will get the manager, Bill, one of the faculty members on the mastermind. I'm going to take a couple of questions, and then we'll go ahead and close it out. Bill, in the back.
I wanted to know, because lately I've been hearing a lot about short sale investment. I want to know your thoughts on that. Because, I'm a real estate wholesaler, but recently I heard about short sale investment. I just wanted to get your take on
What's your
it.
thoughts on short sale investment? Short sale investment, you mean finding deals for wholesalers?
Yeah, something like that.
Well, my feeling is you don't need this list of 100 people in your list that you're selling to. You need to attend meetings like this, other meetings around the city, find people that are buying properties. Sometimes these people are using them for rentals, other times people are buying them to wholesale, to rehab. And you have to find out what their criteria is that they're looking for. You go to Rick and say, Rick, what are you buying? And he says, well, I want houses in Harford County, and here's the guidelines I want. You write it down. So now you find a house, and you got 6 or 7 good buyers. When we were doing 150 houses a year, I had 5 or 6 buyers. That was it. That was it, because I knew they had the money. And many times Vic and the gentleman that he was in business with didn't even look at what I sold 5 houses in the morning and said, I'll take them all, because they knew that I knew what they wanted.
What is the problem that you have with investors going after the foreclosures of the REO?
Well, it's a problem not for me, but for you guys, because the first thing that happens, you say, I need to borrow hard money. And the hard money guy, he ain't going to wait around forever for you to make your deal. And you might have a short sale that you're waiting 6 months to get the lien, to get the approval.
No, I'm not talking about short sales at all. I don't even like to deal with them as realtors. I'm just saying the foreclosures and REOs. What becomes the problem using the hard money lender
you can't do any of this with them. They don't understand it. They don't understand it. Now, if you want to buy the house straight up, like you're doing now, and go borrow hard money, fine. But what we're doing here is we're doing creative stuff here.
Yeah, I just came in, I'm sorry, I didn't see everything. I was invited by a friend, and so I really don't know exactly.
No problem. One more question.
You had said something about 20 minutes or so ago, and it had something to do with sophistication of if you were a lender and that you had to make sure that...
Law of suitability.
Suitability. Is that it? And
Principle of suitability.
And I didn't have a sheet in my stack, and you went quickly, and I didn't understand. I wondered if you could clarify.
Well, it basically says, the law, even under what's known as the Dodd-Frank Act now, when you finance something for somebody, it's be an option, or where you say to someone, you're going to buy my house, I'll finance it for you. You have to make sure that they're qualified the day that you give them the option or you sell them the property when under financing. If you have a $200,000 house and somebody comes in and says, I got $3,000 I'm going to give you, I want to buy your house, but I'll buy it in 2 years, and I work at McDonald's, the chances of them getting a loan for your $200,000 are slim to none. And what you've done there is you've taken advantage of them. You should know they should qualify for your house the day that they put the offer in, and there should only be a reason like they might have a blemish on their credit or something like that, but they should certainly be able to qualify on, say, a 41% debt ratio the day you sell them the house or you do an option. Otherwise, you might be giving them all their money back, particularly under Dodd-Frank.
Okay, guys, let's give Bill a great big hand. But like I said, he will be on the cruise. He will be a part of the mastermind of everything. I want to thank each and every one of you guys for coming out today. I know you could have been a lot of other places on your Saturday morning. I appreciate you guys coming out. Just in caption, if you guys are interested in the Real Deal Meetup group, just go to www.realdealmeetup.com and you can sign up. It's free. If you're interested in the More Mastermind group, becoming a More Mastermind member, you have the actual flyers. It's by application only. You have to apply and you have to be approved in order to become the Mastermind group. With that being said,
Let me just say one thing, Joel. Next